Imagine selling your house, handing back the keys and moving on to a boat full time. Now here's the question nobody answers honestly. How much boat do you actually need before leaving aboard stops feeling like camping and starts feeling like home? Because here's the truth most people get wrong. The most expensive boat isn't automatically the best leave aboard. And some boats with mediocre brand reputations will out-leave aboard yachts that cost 5 times as much. So today, we're climbing a ladder. 7 boats, 7 levels. Level 1 is decent, the cheapest way to genuinely move aboard without wrecking your budget. Level 7 is the ultimate, a yacht that stops relying on the marina and basically replaces it. And the jump between certain rungs, that's where the real money lessons hide. There's one value jump in here that I think the smartest buy in the entire ladder, and one luxury jump that owners describe almost like a religious experience. Stick around because where those land might genuinely change what boat you go shopping for. One quick ground rule before we start. This is not a best boat list, it's a home first list. So we're not scoring top speed or how it looks at the dock. We're scoring the stuff that actually matters when this is where you live. Can you sleep, cook, store your gear, do laundry, stay comfortable at anchor, service the engine without dislocating a shoulder, and stay away from shore without everything falling apart? Keep that in mind because it's exactly why the ladder is going to surprise you. Let's start climbing. Level 1 is Carver 356. And the whole point of this rung is simple. This is the first boat where leaving aboard is genuinely plausible, not a compromise you have to talk yourself into. You get a real 2-cabin, 2-head layout, forward stateroom, an aft berth, a proper salon with wraparound windows that flood the space with light, a galley-down setup, full-size fridge, microwave, and a separate stall shower aft. Owners option it with twin reverse cycle air conditioning units totaling 28,000 BTU. For somewhere around $80,000 to $110,000, you're moving into something that genuinely feels like a small apartment that happens to float. But here's where the curiosity should kick in, because there's a reason this sits at the bottom. Look at the tankage, 3 18 gallons of fuel, about 81 gallons of water, 36 of waste. That's modest. This boat is brilliant at maximizing living space per dollar, but the second you ask it to do real distance, especially in gas form, it starts showing you its limits. There's no serious systems redundancy, no specialist sound insulation, and engine access is tight. So think of the Carver this way. It's an apartment, but it's a marina-based apartment. If your dream is to live aboard at a slip and do coastal hops on weekends, it makes total sense. If your dream is to disappear for a few weeks at a time, hold that thought because that's a problem where we're going to solve as we climb. Which brings us to Level 2, the Bayliner 4788. And this is the rung where the ladder stops feeling like compromise and suddenly feels like abundance. Watch what happens to the numbers. Fuel jumps to 444 gallons, water to 200, and now you've got a true pilot house layout with doors on both sides. But the headline is the accommodation. 3 cabins, 2 heads, master forward, a mid-guest double, and a 3rd cabin with stacked berths and a settee. Domestically, it's loaded too. Fridge, range and oven, microwave, ice maker, even a trash compactor with optional washer, dryer, and air conditioning. This is exactly why the 4788 has a cult following. The people who took these around the Great Loop talk about the layout just clicking as a Liveaboard. On the forums, owners call it one of the best value Liveaboards in its size class. That huge salon, the gentle internal stairs, the giant boat deck, and crucially no reputation for major structural skeletons in the closet. It's known as the good Bayliner, but, and you knew a boat was coming, the price you pay here is below the floorboards. The engine room is a tight squeeze, and basically every owner agrees access is the boat's known weak point. These soft chines can also make it a little Raleigh in a beam sea or a passing wake. So Level 2 is about volume and livability first, machinery elegance second. In that tension, big comfortable interior versus awkward thirsty machinery sets up what I think is the single smartest value move on this entire ladder. Because Level 3, the main ship 390, does something clever. It actually gives stuff up and gets better. On paper, this looks like a downgrade from the Bayliner. You drop the 2 staterooms and just one head. The interior isn't as cavernous, so why does it rank higher on a Liveaboard ladder? Here's the payoff. This is a far more intentional cruiser instead of a floating condo. It keeps 300 gallons of fuel and 130 of water in a lighter. Simpler, more efficient package. Covered aft deck, lower helm door, big windows, a genuinely usable L-shaped galley with Corian counters. And then there's the number that makes forum owners fall in love. A single-engine 390 owner reported burning about 2 gallons an hour at 7 to 8 knots. 2 gallons an hour! Top in around 14 knots, and because that single-engine machinery space isn't crammed, maintenance gets dramatically easier than the twin. That's the whole lesson at this level. On a Liveaboard ladder, these single screw boats are the value stars. They trade guest glamour for efficiency, simpler ownership, and lower annual pain. The honest caveat is only one head. It's less settled offshore than a heavier trawler, and single screw handling really wants a ball thruster and decent technique. But for a couple who actually intends to use the boat instead of pose on it, going from that thirsty Bayliner to this efficient main ship is, in my opinion, the best value jump on the ladder. You give up a stateroom, and you buy yourself years of easier, cheaper cruising. So that's the smart money level. Now, let's talk about what happens when you add pedigree. Level 4 is the Grand Banks 42 Classic, and this is where the boat starts feeling properly yachty in the best sense of the word. This is a better sea boat, a better side deck boat, and a better materials boat than anything below it. Semi-displacement hull, 600 gallons of fuel, 265 of water, and those famous wide walk-around decks with a helm side door. The 42 is one of the most recognizable trawler shapes ever built. In the later wider hulls, after the 1991 widening, add real interior volume up forward, and in the galley, the Liveaboard case on a clean, later fiberglass example is genuinely stronger. We're talking 2 staterooms, 2 heads, reverse cycle heat, dual sub-zero refrigeration, a generator, a private aft master, sometimes even a custom full-size washer and dryer, plus the everyday details that matter. Boarding steps aft, grab rails everywhere, easy helm access. It's safer to move around on deck than anything cheaper on this list, and it feels more substantial underway. So why only level 4? 2 reasons. The owners are honest about both. First, it's not as roomy inside as modern buyers expect. And second, here's the catch, the teak tax. If you want that classic charm, those teak decks and interior brightwork, you usually inherit a serious maintenance burden right along with it. This is a classic quality cruiser, not a modern autonomy machine. It gives you character and big boat manners. What it asks in return is work. And autonomy, the ability to actually stay away from shore, is exactly the wall every boat so far has hit. Level 5 is where we finally break through it. The Katie Krogan 44AE. This is the rung where the ladder stops being mostly about comfort and starts being about independence. Remember that problem we flagged way back at the Carver, wanting to disappear for weeks? This is the answer. Krogan quotes a 3,000-mile range at 7 knots on a full displacement hull. Look at the tankage that makes that possible. 850 gallons of fuel, 300 of water. But the range is only half the story. The real magic is systems density. The standard spec sheet reads like a serious cruiser's wish list. GE refrigeration, a Blue Star propane stove and oven, microwave convention oven, a GE washer dryer, a Master Volt inverter charger, a 270 amp Bolmer alternator, an isolation transformer, dual rackers, copper water piping, and real sound insulation in the machinery space. That's a completely different ownership proposition. Owners defending the Krogan's price tag don't point at glamour, they point at exactly this stuff. Full-size refrigeration, serious battery banks, laundry, a strong water system, the accumulated value of systems that makes long-term cruising feel less like camping and more like actually living somewhere. So why doesn't it beat what's above it? Not quality, domestic latitude. The 44AE is fundamentally a couple's boat with guest capability. The standard layout points to a single head and a den that converts for guests rather than the flexible guest accommodation you start getting higher up. So level 5 is the moment the conversation changes. We're no longer comparing floating apartments, we're comparing self-contained, owner-operated homes. And once you've got autonomy handled, the next question becomes, how nice can this actually get? The Fleming 55. This is the point where you basically stop having to justify anything. The spec sheet is just deep. 1,000 gallons of fuel across 4 tanks, 300 of water, twin Cummins for that all-important redundancy, stabilizers, a generator, and a thoroughly developed electrical package. But it's the domestic side that wins people over. A 21 cubic foot side-by-side fridge, freezer that is a genuine house-sized appliance. A stacked washer and dryer, twin windlaces, protected side decks, and a deck layout obviously designed by people who've spent real time handling lines and moving between the helm, the cockpit, and the boat deck. And this is where I promised you the luxury jump. Going from the Krogan to the Fleming is the move owners talk about almost reverentially. The Forum of the Yacht Forum's commentary is usually consistent. They call a 55 the right size for the cruising couple, a boat with redundancy everywhere. Stable, quiet, clearly designed by people who actually use boats. One owner described it less like a possession and more like a finished argument. That's the energy, the one out of stock. In this company, it's still a relatively compact luxury yacht for the price, and the engine room, while brilliant in its systems thinking, isn't full stand-up headroom throughout. Some buyers want a bigger master or a true walk-in machinery space, and that's the whole point of Level 6. The Fleming isn't an expedition trawler, it's something more subtle and for a lot of people more desirable. The nicest owner-operated motor yacht that still feels manageable as a home. Which leaves exactly one question. What happens when you stop compromising entirely? Level 7, the Nordhaden 68, the ultimate. This is the only boat on the ladder that combines true expedition systems with an unmistakably domestic, livable interior. And that combination is the whole reason it sits at the top. Start with a scale, 68 feet, a beam over 20 feet, 205,000 pounds fully loaded. Now the tankage that defies what this boat can do. 3,100 plus gallons of fuel, 673 of water. Inside, it's a massive salon, a gourmet galley, a full beam master. The interior story is finally as big as the ambition, and it's still sized to be run by a cruising couple. But the numbers aren't what separate it. The engineering does. There's a 160 horsepower John Deere wing engine. That's a completely separate backup engine. So if the main fails offshore, you still get home. A 27.5 kilowatt generator, hydraulic ball and stern thrusters, stabilizers, an emergency hydraulic bilge pump, a sophisticated fuel transfer and scrubbing system with dedicated sight gauges, and a stand-up engine room with 6'2" of headroom. You literally walk into the machinery space and work standing up. This is a boat architected to stay running far, far from help. The only real negative, and it's a serious one, is cost and consequence. We're talking roughly $2.7 to $3.5 million used, and then bigger berth costs, scarcer slips, and dramatically more expensive ownership year over year. But that doesn't knock it off the top. It just tells you what Level 7 actually means. Excellent liveaboardability isn't only comfort, it's comfort plus independence, plus redundancy, plus the consequence of carrying all of it. This is the boat that stops relying on the marina and starts replacing it. So there's the ladder. Level 1 buys you leavable space. Level 2 buys volume. Level 3 buys efficiency. Level 4 buys pedigree. Level 5 buys autonomy. Level 6 buys polish. And Level 7 buys total independence. And notice what actually happened as we climbed. The boats didn't just get bigger and more expensive, they got more self-sufficient. The real question was never, how much boat can I afford? It was, how far from shore do I want to be able to live? Answer that honestly and your level picks itself. One last thing, and this matters if you're actually shopping. Every one of these can be transformed by what a previous owner added. A water maker, solar, lithium, Starlink, a loaded main ship, or Grand Banks can punch a full level above its brand image. And a stripped one can fall below it. So the model tells you the starting point. The individual boat tells you the truth. Always survey the boat in front of you, not the badge on the hull. So now I want to hear it. Which level is your level? Are you a level 3 efficiency realist? Or are you holding out for that level 7 dream? Tell me in the comments.